Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope that you are well and healthy by the grace of Almighty Allah. I am Shariful Islam, your biology teacher. Today, I want to deliver a lecture on chapter 12, Heredity in Organism and Evolution. This is our last lecture on this chapter. In our early lecture, we had know about some topics like DNA test, determining the gender of an offspring, and genetic disorder. Today, from this lecture, we will able to know about the concept of evolution, describe about selection theory of natural selection theory of evolution, significance of evolution in the survival of species, the difference between the similar and dissimilar feature of the mother and father, and at last consider the role of DNA test in our daily life. At first, the theories on environment, evolution of organism. Theories on evolution of organism. In this world of diversity, we are similar with many living organisms, among which only 1.3 million are animals. Besides, these 400,000 species of plants are identified. Once, man had an idea that the world is unchangeable. The shape, volume of earth remain unchanged from its inception. They thought that there was no difference between the primitive type of kingdom and the current type of kingdom or living kingdom. But in 500 BC, a scientist named Xerxes first discovered fossils. He proved that the living organisms are not unchangeable. There are many changes happening between the past and the present. In 400 BC, Aristotle proved that in the living kingdom, there are some species which are more developed in comparison to other species. These developed species adapted with change of the environment and came to their present from through evolution. Generally, evolution is a slow process, and through this process, complex organisms originate from simple organisms. There are also very few examples of abrupt evolution. According to the latest scientific data, 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth was a heated gas mass evolved from the Sun. This gas mass radiated heat and gradually become denser to a liquid state. Then the mass solidified from outer side to the inner side and released vapor, creating cloud surrounding and mass. Rain produced from that cloud created the sea on the solid level of the earth. In the course of time, life originated in a sea. These lives underwent gradual change and resulted in today's diverse world. After many hypothalamic and research-based experience, modern people have attained the concept that evolution is the basis of the origin of life. Evolution comes from the Greek word evoluere. The English philosopher and educationalist Herbert Spencer first used the word evolution. Once it was thought that through slow and continuous change, a complicated and developed species was developed from a simple and unicellular organism. This process is known as evolution. But evolution does not always occur slowly. Sometimes it occurs first with environmental change. Not only that, sometimes complex organisms turn into simpler ones due to evolution. The Mexican catfish lost its eyesight when it shifted from surface water to dark caves of deep water. This is an example. So, now the definition of evolution is given by Jean Allens. Alleles is one specific gene can remain in more than one form, then each and every form of that gene is called its allele. Again, one specific gene can remain in more than one form, then each and every form of that gene is called its allele. According to Curtis Barnes, the modern definition of evolution is the change of the gene allele frequently from generation to generation within the species more or less similar in nature. For example, a list was made after determining the genes of all the tigers of the Sundarban. At the same time, the number of alleles of the gene was also counted. After some years, another list will be made by determining gene of the next generation of tigers along with determining the alleles. When comparing the two lists, if it is found that there was a noteworthy change in the alleles, then one can say that evolution occurs in the tiger population. Our next topic is on the origin of life. There are many options about how life originated on Earth, but there is no controversy about life originating from seawater. In this regard, scientists put forward logic in different ways. First, the presence of different mineral salt in most living cells, but blood and other liquid of body are similar to that of seawater minerals. Second, there are still simple and unicellular organisms found in seawater. Evolution is a complex network of numerous chains occurring simultaneously in various branches. The scientific hypothesis regarding how life originated on Earth is like this. 260 years ago, the air of the Earth was filled with large amount of methane, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, water vapor, nitrogen and carbon dioxide. There was no trace of oxygen. Due to frequent eruptions of volcans and the effect of ultraviolet rays and lightening, the atmospheric temperature increased and the organic materials combined to produce amino acid and nucleic acid. The above process was proved by doing an experiment in a laboratory. Nucleoprotein is produced from the combination of amino acid and nucleic acid. Gradually, the nucleoprotein attained the power of replication and thus a life start. The origin of life, the origin of Earth and its consequent evolution of life is called chemical evolution. It is assumed that the nucleoprotein is produced by the chemical combination of protein and nucleic acid. A protovirus is evolved from the nucleoprotein and from it a virus evolved. A virus is a state between living and non-living. After that, bacteria are produced and later on protozoa was originated. The nucleus of bacteria is primitive in nature. It is called a prokaryotic cell. Later on, true nucleus appear in protozoa. In some unicellular organism, chlorophyll is found and as a result synthesis of food become possible and oxygen is produced by as a byproduct. Then the aerobic organism increase in number. Initiation of multicellular organism appear from the unicellular organism. In this way, evolution occurs in two streams, plant and animal. There are many explanations of chemical evolution and the origin of living organisms, but the explanation given above is the most commonly accepted one. In this way, evolution occurs in two streams, plant or animal. There are many exceptions about chemical evolution and the origin of living organism, but the explanation given above is the most commonly accepted one. Evolution never happened in a linear way. It has always been happening in a complicated way in different branches. Our next topics, theory of Darwin or Darwinism. Charles Darwin, the British naturalist, brought a revolutionary idea to the history of biology and to science. Scientist Charles Darwin was born in Shrewsbury, England. During his voyage of the Galapagos Island in the Pacific Ocean, he was attended to the amazing diversity of plant and animal of that origin, and he came back to England in 1837 with a vast collection of data and samples. 20 years after his return, that is 1859, he expressed his opinion in a book named The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. It is mentionable that Darwin is not the founder of evolution, but his theory is known as the theory of evolution. According to the discussion in the chapter, we have seen that scientists living before Christ knew that organic evolution occurred on Earth. The sources of Darwin was that he developed a mechanism based on scientific data and proof which could explain all matters related to evolution. Alfred Russel Wallace, a contemporary British naturalist and scientist who independently developed a theory on natural selection, also mentioned natural selection as a cause of organic evolution. Due to some historical reasons, Darwin's theory was more popular than his. According to Darwin, general facts about natural events. Number 1. Increase of generation in excessive rate. A general characteristic of living being is to produce its species at an excessive rate. Due to this, the number of species increase both geometrically and mathematically. For example, one master plant produces 7,30,000 seeds in a year. It is possible that to get 7,30,000 plants from those seeds. A female salmon fish lays 30 million eggs in one breeding season. According to Darwin, if all the elephants born from a pair of elephants would survive, the number of elephants would be 1,900,000 in 750 years. Number B. Limited food and shelter. As the area is limited on Earth, shelter and food for living organisms is limited. Number C. Struggle for survival. As the number of living organisms increase both geometrically and mathematically, having limited food and shelter, living organisms have to face hard competition for survival. Darwin called this the struggle for existence. Darwin noticed that living organisms had a struggle in 3 stages. Stage number 1, interspecific struggle. For example, a frog eats an insect and a snake eats a frog. A peacock eats both snake and frog. Thus, only due to physical need, that is called hunger, a cruel relationship between among different species. There is species plays a role of food or consumer. Second struggle, intraspecific struggle. As the same species has the same habitat and the same food habit. When their number increases, they compete among themselves for survival. For example, when in an island the number of herbivorous animals increase, they fight for food and shelter among themselves. The stronger animal, normal herbivorous animal, beats the weaker ones and take the command of the area. As a result, the weaker animals die after a certain period from starvation. Third number struggle with environment. Normal life of living organism is interrupted by unfavorable conditions like flood, drought, cyclone and tornado, earthquake, volcano eruption, etc. So living beings always have to fight with this unfavorable environment to survive. These who own the struggle can survive, which others become extinct. For example, the coal of Mid and North America become extinct due to surf, cold and snowfall. Then the next general facts is variation. According to Darwin, two animals, that is called our group of animals, are never exactly the same. There are always some differences, even if in a very small scale. The difference between the two specimens of the same species is called variation or mutation. Variation helps living organisms to survive. Next fact, natural selection. The process through which organisms develop through adaptation gain more success in struggling in comparison to others. and enjoys more advantage in competition is called natural selection. This is a figure of natural selection. The organisms which win the competition in struggling through adaptation are selected by nature and produce at a greater rate. On the other hand, organisms which cannot adjust to the new change cannot survive and gradually become extinct. According to Darwin, the organism which can survive in unfavorable conditions by adaptation should be addressed as the fittest. Thus, it can be easily said that the fittest organisms survive the winning the competition through adaptation. That is called survival of the fittest. Next fact: origin of new species. Nature select plant or animal and nourishes them. Plant and animals that survive can cope with the change of the environment and are able to produce more than those who are unfit for survival. The characteristics of variation are transferred generation after generation. The generation which has the quality of environmental friendly variation are origins selected by nature. Over the year, through natural selection, plant or animal are selected and thus new variation of species are produced. At present, genetics cytologists and taxonomists followed the theory on genetics and evolution, believe that new variation could be produced in three different ways, such as number one, being isolated from basic species, B, hybridization, C, in hybridized species are accidental increase of chromosomes occurs during cell division, and as a result a new variety produced can adapt with the environment and is selected by nature for survival. Then our last topics, the significance of evolution in surviving of species. During emergence of a new species through evolution, many species are lost in the passage of time. For example, dinosaur and the species which possess a greater ability to adapt through evolution can go far. So the species which can attain more ability to adapt with the environment, flow of life and demography will survive for a longer period of time. This process is called adaptation. It is not that evolution occurs only in nature. Evolution can also be done by experiment in the laboratory. This is also evidence of realistic evolution. There is no specific evolution found against evolution still today. The more knowledge we gain about the biological kingdom, the more difficult it becomes to DNA evolution. So, thank you very much for participating in our online class. And next class, we will deliver some CQ question on the basis of chapter 12, evolution.